And doesn't this just all sound easy? Like it sounds so easy. Like, oh, just reflect a little bit more, and and then you'll get more opportunity. But it's those sort of things aren't easy because it's just not sexy. We want opportunity to be this big, sexy thing that just comes around the corner, and we're like, yes, please, I'll take one of those.
Welcome to Becoming Ourselves, a work in progress podcast, where we explore how to become healthy, wealthy, and wise. This podcast is for young adults who are, like us, navigating this adult adolescence of self-discovery and personal growth.
I'm Jesse Sigrist, and every week, my brother Joel and I will bring on guests to talk about new perspectives on living a fulfilling life and developing skills along the way. From overcoming obstacles to setting achievable goals, we explore topics that are relevant to all young adults who are discovering their place in the world.
Maya Angelou defined success as liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. We often feature guests to exemplify this success and lead lives that are healthy, wealthy, and wise. These guests will often have expertise in fields such as finance, relationships, careers, or mental and physical health. Our goal is to inspire and challenge both our listeners and each other to become the best versions of ourselves.
Feel free to text us at 503-893-2664 to share your own experiences and be part of the conversation. We'll always reply. Let's embark on this journey of becoming ourselves together.
Great. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's really good to see you again, Joel and Jesse. Nice to meet you officially.
It's good to meet you, Daniel. Thanks for hopping on.
Great. Okay, so Daniel is a certified career counselor. You are the owner of Learned Opportunity LLC. You also are the host of the Learned Opportunity podcast, which streams pretty much everywhere. I would highly recommend it for people that haven't listened to it in the past. They have me as one of the guests, so I'm partial to that episode, but there's a lot of really good ones. Daniel currently lives with his wife in Indianapolis, where he practices career consulting as a National Career Development Association certified career counselor. That's kind of a mouthful there.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Yeah. Daniel writes, speaks, and produces content for personal and professional leadership development. Daniel, do you want to say anything in your own words to add on that or to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I just like personal professional development. I'll call myself a personal professional development nerd. I am a certified career counselor, but basically anything where we can learn and grow and create more opportunities for ourselves, that's where I like to be in the kind of work that I like to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Certainly, personal and professional development is the way that we originally got connected to through when you were a career counselor at George Fox. I was one of your students and came and talked to you about resumes and graduation and all that good stuff too. So, yeah, excited to have you on.
Yes, one of the all-star students too. Yeah, the ones that are like, all right, this one's going places. So.
I appreciate that. As I'm sitting here in a career transition unemployed, it's always nice to hear that. So.
Going places. I didn't say where.
So, Daniel, one of the things that you talk about a lot publicly and a lot on your different social media platforms and on your website and certainly on the Learned Opportunity podcast is opportunity. And I want to hear you talk about why does opportunity matter, and how do you think about opportunity kind of from a personal standpoint, a professional standpoint, and even a relational standpoint? Opportunity can mean a lot of things, so I'd love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, this question was making me think, why the heck do I even care about opportunity? What was the driving force or the story behind that? Like, where did I land on this word as the thing that I want to focus on or think about and talk to other people about all the time? I think it comes down to being somebody that was told throughout growing up in the church, youth group, all these sort of youth leadership events, that Daniel, you're a leader. You are going to go do great things, really big, wonderful things. And I really identified with the people that told me those things. And then there gets a point where you go through college and then you graduate, and it doesn't feel like a matchup for what all these wonderful people say about your leadership capabilities and all these things, and that you matter, and that your voice are going to make a difference in the world. And then nobody cares. You just graduated from college, and it's just like, what the heck? Something isn't lining up here. And I think I really found myself being cynical in that time period, immediately following college, where I'm like, I was told that I'm a leader. I expect a little bit more from my life right now than what it is. I'm in student loan debt. I am not necessarily in a career. I'm doing just part-time work. Even though I'm enjoying that part-time work, I would love to be, making more than what I'm making right now and doing big things and being a world changer and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, you know what? What I probably need and want is more opportunity. I'm just not getting enough opportunity right now. And I don't know if I had the best attitude back then, or really was thinking correctly. But I just noticed that it's easy, especially for emerging leaders, to get into this mindset and this idea that there's just probably not as much opportunity as there used to be. And if only I would just be given a break, if only I would be given an opportunity, then I would, make it. I would get to that next step. But it really doesn't work like that. As you're talking about through this podcast, it's a formational experience, and they weren't talking to me as a youth leader and saying, Daniel, we see your leadership, and you can claim that right now. No, they were seeing who Daniel would eventually turn into and be formed into if he continued along that same path. But it just takes years, it takes experiences, and it takes formational practice in order to get there. So I'm starting to rethink this word opportunity, and I'm wanting it still very much for myself. But I'm noticing that it's less something that I need to just wait and be cynical about, and like, somebody will hand it to me, and it's something that I can learn to create for myself.
I like that. Yeah, I think as like going up through college and like especially high school before that, it can very much feel like a big fish in a small pond sort of a thing, that like your whole world in, like, for me going to George Fox University, right, there's maybe 4,000 students at the whole school, and so for me it's like, oh yeah, this is my whole world. There's like 4,000 people that I have to win over, and that I'm kind of competing for different opportunities and those sorts of things. And so there are a lot of opportunities there because a lot of people aren't trying for those, and it's kind of there's not that intense competition. You're never applying for something on campus that gets 2,000 applications, right? Like you're never running into something like that. But then you graduate and you get into the real world, and it's very different, right? Real world, I hesitate to use that term because college is the real world, but you get out of like that college bubble and into the world beyond, and it's different. It's so different because you're not suddenly in this small space where everyone and everyone's looking out for you and everyone's got your back. Suddenly it's this giant pond that you're in. It's this ocean of opportunities, and it's hard to stand out. And also when you're applying for entry-level jobs, people aren't looking for leadership the same way. They're looking for, no, I need someone to come in and listen to what I'm telling them to do and to do it. And I'm not worried about their leadership abilities the same way. I'm worried about, are they able to do the job in front of them?
Can you actually do it? I need you to just do something. Just like press the button. I don't need you to lead a whole team to press this button. Just press the button, please.
Yeah, sure, you're very smart and great and wonderful, but can you please just do your job?
It's a little ironic because you really want those people down the line. You want them to mature into leaders, but that's not the person you're hiring for the entry-level job. So there's kind of a two-way street there where they're hoping for you long-term, but right off the bat, it doesn't really align with what you're always told as a child and what you're hearing in these youth group situations and everything.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think that it kind of comes down to opportunity. We view it a lot of times in just one section of the equation. So opportunity, I always define it as it's both options plus values. So your dreams, the things that you care about, that is what equals opportunity. So we can get really heavily on one side of this equation and see like the values, the things I care about, leadership and wanting to, hit these big virtues and things like that. But those might not be options yet for you. Your options are what resources are in front of you right now. What can you do? What skill sets do you have? And it's not really an opportunity if you don't have the resources to back it up, if you don't have options right now to actually go after those things that you're valuing. So it takes both of those. If you're missing one, you're missing opportunity. If you don't have anything that you care about, but you're really resourced, well, you're not going to find opportunity. You're just going to be presented with a lot of options of different directions that you could go. And just because it's an option doesn't mean that it's an opportunity.
Yeah, I think as I'm looking at jobs right now and as I'm like going through that process, there's people that I know and people that, are looking out for me and have sent me positions and have sent me positions, some of which I'm very qualified for and have been great. And some of them have been positions where I'm like, oh, I don't have 17 years of executive experience to apply to this role. Like this isn't, even though it's like it is a job that's hiring, it is something that's theoretically available. Like I don't have the value add there. I don't have the kind of this skill set to actually take advantage of that opportunity. And so it's not actually an opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even though they do see very much your potential, and that is the level in which you are being formed into if you continue in the way that you're going. So yeah, there's a lot about opportunity that is less in the moment and is more a long game of just practicing the small things and doing it well, and then over time that compiling together to create that opportunity, and you end up there. But a lot of times we see it more as just like it's going to be this huge event that is my big break that is just going to happen, and that's just not how it works. I mean, maybe in Hollywood, but not not for a 23-year-old who
Yeah,
just graduated college.
I think I often hear opportunity as like a quick door opening, and if you don't jump on that right away, it's going to close right away, and it almost feels like there's just this one bottleneck, one focal point. But I really like that long-term view and long-term approach toward opportunity to show how it is a long game, and it is especially based on a career, it's over a period of years, and it's not usually just one switch that makes everything work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is just a long game, and sometimes it might be one thing that just all of a sudden happens. So sometimes we're granted mercy and grace beyond what we deserve, and it doesn't necessarily match where we're at right now. But that is only also coming from people that do know your skill set, that do know your resources, and know you very well a lot of times, in connections. That's what creates options. So it's still both sides of that equation, even if it is a big break.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, just as you're talking about this, it reminds me of you build your own luck. That it's not, it doesn't just come to you on accident. It doesn't just happen on a whim someday. Like you have to be ready for it. Like if the door opens before you've prepared the skills, if the door opens and all you've been doing is, hanging out waiting for a door to open, then you're not able to actually take advantage of it. There's nothing there for you to kind of jump on. You have to become the right person for when that door opens, and then you can actually take advantage of them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you mentioned just kind of in your last thing about like sometimes people will extend some grace to you, extend an option, or they're able to see something in you that maybe you haven't. Maybe it's not on your resume yet, but people are able to see it in you. How do you think about networking as it relates to opportunity and kind of it's who you know that matters more than what you know? How do you think about that kind of balance there?
Right. I see it, I mean, a lot lately as collaboration and working together. That's what I've been enjoying about these podcasts. I mean, you come on mine, I come on yours. I mean,
Yeah.
it's working together, and it's both things that we care about, but it's creating opportunity for one another. And it's really hard to just create opportunity on an island, siloed off away from other people. And so if you are all the time just focused on creating opportunity just for yourself, that's probably a lower rung on the ladder of like an opportunity mindset of just, those people that go to a networking event and they'll tell you all about them, but they won't ask you a single question. They won't care really about what it is that you're excited about. They're just the ones that are going to hand you their business card right away and try to make the sale, and are standing over there next to the refreshments, and you don't want to go over to the refreshments because this person's going to talk to you, and oh my goodness, that's a nightmare. And that's
Yeah.
not going to get that person a lot of opportunities at all. But the people that get the opportunities through networking are the ones that are looking to help you with your opportunities first, are wanting to hear what you're excited about, and how can I, with the skill set and the options that I possess right now, share those options and resources with you and help you accomplish that of what you value. And a lot of times it's just reciprocal. You ask someone about them, and they usually will ask right back, and they might have some gifts and talents and resources and options that you do not possess right then. And that speeds up this opportunity process, because if it's options plus values and you don't have those options, you can meet someone that values the same thing as you and has the options to share. And that can speed up the process and get you into doors and places that you might not have gotten to just by yourself, and waiting and training by yourself for doing whatever it is that you need to do. So that's kind of more of how I've been viewing my networking or making connections or things like that. But then also another thing is I've been viewing podcasting. It's not that I have a huge listenership. It's not that I have a huge influence on a lot of people. I mean, I don't. But the benefit of this has been practicing just listening to other people's stories, learning how to ask good questions, and just sitting down to talk to people that I'm actually interested in and taking the time to do that. And you don't have to record it, but everyone would benefit from seeing themselves as having their own personal podcast. Yeah, go out and who are you interested in? What questions are you interested in asking them about what it is that they're doing? And just go to a coffee shop and record your own podcast in your head and talk to that person. That's just networking, and how I would recommend a listener would do that or go about it.
I think it's a better way than kind of like the business Tinder of just like sending out LinkedIn requests and passing out business cards. And you've no idea. Like, I've been running into this also where like I run into people where I'm their first connection on LinkedIn, right? We're connected. And I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I don't recognize their name. I couldn't tell you a thing about them. If you asked for a connection with them, I would have to go read their profile and then essentially cold call them to like provide a connection, because they don't know me any more than I know them, right? And it's the sort of thing where like that's not really providing anything to me or to them, right? It's instead it's the people that no, I'm willing to have them come on my podcast. I want to go on their podcast. I want to talk to them about things that like I know what's going on in their lives. I know the sorts of things that they're pursuing. Those are the relationships that you're gonna get the opportunities from. It's not gonna be people that you that you sent out a spam request to and they hit yes. Like It's different.
without an introduction message or anything, and
Exactly.
or the ones
Exactly.
that are an introduction message are just trying to sell you something. But did you know that there actually was a Tinder for networking?
Oh.
Yeah, there was an app. I remember actually while I was at George Fox in the data center finding this app and trying it out to see if it would be beneficial for students. It wasn't. And that's why you haven't heard of it. But you literally swipe right or left
Yeah.
and like to connect with people.
Whoa.
That sounds horrifying to
Whoa.
me.
Man, what's the name
Can't
of it? I
imagine
kind
it
of
going
want to poke
particularly.
around and
I
see it.
have no recollection of what the name was. That's how worthless this app was in that
Oh
experience. I
man.
maybe connected with one person, and immediately was just like, yeah, they're not really a good fit for for what for what I'm going to. So I ghosted them in true Tinder style. So
True Tinder style, you have to, yeah. That kind of, I think that's the sort of thing that in theory is an interesting idea, but in practice is going to draw mostly people that I'm not trying to build a substantive connection with. That really most of the people that I'm going to run into on that are trying to sell me something or want me to join their MLM. And, and I'm not
work for
interested in
yourself,
either of those
Joel. If you
things.
really want to, you could work for yourself. You know, I mean,
Man, did you know I could make like $2,000 a week working from home?
wow, that sounds great. Sign me up.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it. So are there, like, as we're talking about opportunities and seeing the difference between a substantive relationship where you actually, you get to know the person, you get to know their story a little bit, versus someone that you've swiped right on LinkedIn. How do you kind of evaluate opportunities and how worthwhile they are?
It's hard. I think there's no magic bullet or formula for like this is plug this into a spreadsheet and this score will turn out that this is an opportunity if it's an 8 and above, and if it's an 8 and below, then that's not an opportunity. It's just an option. But there are some different tools that I usually use in conjunction with one another, and most of them will be focused on either one side of that equation, whichever side you might be having a more difficult time with. Usually, like, oh, this is something I really value, but I don't know if I can go for it. So then you need to look at the options to see if it's a match with the values. Or a lot of times it's just like, oh, I know I really value this, but I don't know what my options are. So you need to look into the different skill sets and try to figure out what could get me to that line of the value. So there are definitely different things that I might use depending on the situation. I've used a lot of like a decision matrix before to look at two options and compare them to one another to see which one would be more of a match towards my values. And a decision matrix is just a table where you put decision A, decision B, and you put pros, you put cons, and you weight them. And you'll get a score at the end. So, like, this is a pro for me on this side, and it's a 5. This is a pro over here, but it's only a 2. It's not really as big of a pro. And then, oh, this is a con, but it's not as high. It's maybe a -1. So, or, man, that's a really, I wouldn't want this if I make this decision. So that's a -4. And then you see your score at the end, whether one option is positive or more than the other option. And that's been useful on a couple of occasions for me. So I save that a lot. And then also a lot of these other assessments, practices to see what it is that you actually value in a supervisor, in a teammate, in just a career environment specifically, or value as a mission for yourself. And there's a lot of assessments and stuff out there for that. But most of the time, it's really, I think that the real kicker is time for reflection and not just reacting, but taking a step back to reflect on the things that you've already done, and then taking that reflection and responding to whatever it is that's in front of you, instead of what we usually do, which is just a natural gut. I'm emotionally going to react to this option because I don't know, it might not be here, it might not, and then you get into something that might not have actually been an opportunity. It was just an option, but out of fear, out of anxiety, you ended up, taking it anyway. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's easy to be reactive, right? It's hard to be reflective. One of the things that I've been thinking about and talking with people recently about is the idea of like trial and error, that we go through trial and error in life. But a really important part of that kind of feedback cycle of trial and error is the reflection part, to actually know what the error was. That like if you try things and it doesn't work, like is it because you tried the wrong thing? Is it because you tried it in the wrong way? Is it because you tried the right thing, but it's not the right thing for you? You hate doing it? Or like, what actually is it about that you can learn from and kind of move forward with?
yeah. And, doesn't this just all sound easy too? Like, it sounds so easy. Like, oh, just reflect a little bit more, and, and then you'll get more opportunity. But it's those sort of things aren't easy because it's just not sexy. We
Yeah.
want opportunity to be this big, sexy thing that just comes around the corner, and we're like, yes, please, I'll take one of those. But it's just taking the small little steps of at the end of your day, writing in a journal, asking yourself 2, 3 questions. What am I grateful for from today? What's something that I missed the mark or I failed in? What are some things that are on my mind, or whatever questions that you come up with? Being consistent in that on the long stretch will create the opportunity, but it's just not the sexy fun thing to do, or seem like the answer needs to be something big and bold, but it's not.
Thanks for listening. If you have any thoughts or questions, text us at 503-893-2664. Now, back to the show.
So I was really interested in what you said there about, it's not really sexy to be reflective and whatnot. I was also thinking about kind of improving ourselves and building up skills. What would be some good steps toward developing the skill of reflecting on things? And it's not just about time, but what are you actually doing there?
Yeah. It's just doing it. I mean, that's
Right on.
I mean, anything that we're thinking about when it becomes like a formation practice, if you're wanting to become a more grateful person, what is it that a grateful person does? If you're wanting to become a more reflective person, think of somebody in your head that is more reflective. What is it that they do during their day? And identifying with that and saying like, no, I'm going to be a more grateful person. I am a more grateful person. So therefore you're more likely to do the things a grateful person would do because you're identifying with that. To your core, rather than, oh, I'd really like to journal a little bit more during my week, but that doesn't necessarily get to that point. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you could probably do to grow in your reflective skills, but it is just getting more reps in there. I'm not doing great with it, honestly. I'm not perfect at it. I have 3 questions that I would love to ask myself every night and journal. And this journal looks like, oh, January 5th through 12th, slight break, January 25th to February 4th. Whoops, not there yet. But I always keep coming back because it's more about that is who I want to be than I need to hit the mark every single time. So it's just as many reps as you can get in. That's great. If you are reflective 2 times in a month, you were reflective and more than than you weren't. So it's I think in Atomic Habits, it's the difference between saying I need to run 5 times a week or I'm a runner. And the person that says that I'm a runner, if they run 4, but they really meant to run 5, they're still a runner because they ran 4, and they're more likely to then go on and run 5 the next week than the person that it's just, no, I messed up and I'm not going to continue to do that. So I don't know if that is the answer that is correct or what you're looking for, but that's just
No, that's got a lot of got a lot of really good gold in there. Kind of, find almost a mentor in that skill or a role model to do a little bit of a copycat of, and then start practicing those things, putting them into implementation, and then having a gracious mindset towards yourself. Right, always super important to say, don't frame it as, oh, I slipped up and didn't journal today, but rather I journaled a couple times this week and it was really good, or I journaled once or whatever,
Yeah.
and find the good in it, and be kind of like you said earlier, a little bit of grace and mercy will go a long way
Yeah,
sometimes.
for
So.
sure. For sure. I mean, either way, I just love thinking about that from the long run of who am I being formed into, and being intentional about that, and setting a goal of the people that I want to be like, and the man that I want to become. And if I don't do that, it doesn't matter. I'm still being formed into something, whether I know it or not. So taking the time to think about that, of who do I want to be, what kind of a man, what kind of a woman do I want to be, who, and just doing that makes a really big difference, I think, towards finding opportunity.
Yeah, I like it. And I think the most important piece that you put in there was the piece about like being gracious to yourself, because I'm someone that likes to say that I'm a reflective person. I don't always like the process of being reflective because it's not fun. The point of it is that it's not fun, right? But it's just like, it's clearing the cobwebs in the mind, right? It's like going back through and like figuring out, no, what did we learn from this? And I think it's easy to, like you're saying, journal for a week and a half or journal for a month straight even, and then miss a couple days and be like, oh, I guess I'm not a journaler. I guess that's not the person that I am. And then kind of put it on hold for, in my case, I've put things on hold for 2 months, 6 months, a couple of years at
Yeah.
a time, and then been like, man, I want to be doing this. I wish that I did this more, and I need to come back and know I should be meditating regularly. I should be keeping a journal regularly, and even if regularly means twice a month, that's okay. It's better than 0 times a month.
Well,
And
and
I think
each time that's a
it's easy to get into
wonderful,
kind of
each time that's a wonderful moment to celebrate too.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you remembered that that's who you want to be. You could have not remembered.
yeah.
You could have gone a couple more years and not remembered it, but you remembered it in that moment. So yippee, let's do it.
Yeah.
So and not taking that as like a, dang it, I messed up, I failed. It's been 2 months. I might as well not do it. It's just like, yes, good. I remembered maybe a month earlier than what I might have. So I'm going to take this opportunity, and I'm going to go for it. So
Yeah. And not just that, like you remembered and then you chose to act on it, right? Because there's other times that I remember and I'm like, man, I want to be a reflective person. Maybe I'll like journal at lunch today. And then it gets to lunchtime and I'm like, I'm going to throw on Netflix instead because I don't feel like it, right? And it's remembering and also following through on that decision
Yeah.
is really a thing to celebrate. It's not easy to do all the time.
yeah, I do want to say though, like I
We're
feel,
getting a lot into like
sorry.
self-talk and the way that we kind of talk about it ourselves. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, Daniel. It reminds me of, I had a teacher in high school. He was a strength training coach, and he would often say, "You talk to yourself more than anyone else in the world. Talk to yourself in a kind way." And when I was 17, I thought he was so full of it. I was like, you think you're so cool, like spouting this off all the time. I was like, oh yeah, sure, I talk to myself a lot. Whatever, dude. And like now, with a few years between that and where I'm at today, I'm like, I think he was onto something there. I don't remember his name, but I would apologize to him if I could.
For some reason, I just thought of like that office moment where Jim is like acting like he's really hating on himself in front of Andy. And he's just like, Jim, stop talking to my friend Tuna that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a Brene Brown says, she says, talk to yourself like it's someone you love, because it is. And I always think that's like a cool reminder too. There's a lot of ways to frame it, but the core of it is, when you mess up, it's okay. Like go easy on yourself and pick yourself up again. It doesn't help to beat yourself up and tear yourself down from that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I always
And
find I hear that advice and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so bad about being mean to myself. It's like, wait, that's not quite the objective there. So even that kind of brings some of those same things.
You're
But
getting caught in
no,
that
it's always a
cycle.
process. Yep. But always a process to keep working on that and be a little bit more gentle the next time, right? Remember that's who you want to be and keep working on that.
I applied to a job the other day, and
yeah,
I got an automated email that said, "Thanks for the application. You know, we're reviewing it. We'll get back to you when we're able." And then I immediately got a follow-up email that said, "Please give us feedback on our like application process. We know you're still early in it. We know you haven't really gone through it yet, but like, what do you think?" And within 15 minutes of getting like that email, they sent me a no reply rejection where it's just like, "Nope, we've gone in a different direction." And I was like, what on earth are we doing right here? Like, you send me an email that's like, hey, we know we haven't seen it yet. We know we haven't looked at it. You haven't heard anything. Like, just let us know what you've thought so far. Also, you didn't get it. I was like, what?
you haven't looked at it at all. But can you send me that link again after the rejection? I have a couple more things I'd like to say.
Yeah, so I like hadn't responded to it yet because I was like, I don't have anything to say. I haven't heard anything. And then as soon as I got the rejection, I was like, okay, I've got some things to say. Like, I don't really believe that anybody looked at this. Like, oh yeah. Can I ask you about limiting beliefs? That's where I want to transition to.
Yeah.
I kind of want to hear you talking about the way that we all have limiting beliefs, right? That's not something to shame any individual for. But as we think about limiting beliefs, can you talk briefly about just what they are and how they kind of influence our interactions with opportunity?
Yeah, just to go back to my own story
Oh yeah.
of going from college graduation, and then I started thinking these things and having some cynical thoughts about how the world was, and there wasn't as much opportunity as there used to be, and people just weren't giving me the leadership opportunities that I was looking for, and I was misunderstood and all these other things. A lot of that was a mindset and a limiting belief is what I would call it. And these are definitely things that are going to prevent opportunity. I would say it's actually probably the biggest villain when it comes to finding opportunities and creating them. It's your limiting beliefs and your mindset. When I asked people a little bit about what they felt was a key contributor to why they weren't getting as much opportunity as they maybe want, the answers were usually like, "Oh, I don't, know what I want, so my values," or "I don't have the resources to go after your options." But then there was a third one as well that was, "Oh, I just don't really believe that there's opportunity for me. I don't. I have some things with my mindset that are preventing me from really wanting to go out there and put myself out there and believe that I can create opportunities." And so that all comes back to just your thoughts are things that you can actually change, that you are able to control what you are thinking about. Sometimes you will think of something just as a natural reaction, but you can thoughtfully take that and go another way. I can think right now about Chick-fil-A and choose to then think about Raising Cane's or something else along that sort of route. So you are in control of your thoughts. And it's once again taking, instead of reacting, taking that time to step back, observe your thoughts, and be in a non-biased third party to yourself and reflect and say, what is that thought that I just had? And what does that mean for me? And how might I react if I'm having that thought? And then what we call in counseling world, which is the world that I came from, what we would do then is, okay, can we then take control of this thought that we just observed? And we just observed that that's probably not entirely based off of truth, that's probably not helpful or very nice to us. Let's reframe that and choose the words that we would find more helpful, that we would find kinder to ourselves, that would be more rooted in actual reality and truth. So the thought that I was having was there's probably just not as much opportunity out there. Is that true? Depends what area of opportunity you're looking at. There is some data to support that our generations aren't getting as much financial opportunity as previous generations before. So maybe it's partially true, but is that really helpful that I'm thinking that way? No, because then I'm not going to do anything. If I can't help it. It's a third party out there. There's just not as much opportunity as there used to be. So I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to sulk about it. And is that kind? Maybe it's a little bit kind in that I'm thinking, well, obviously, like, I'm entitled to opportunity, so there just happens to like there must not be much opportunity out there, because if there was, I would be the one to get it. So maybe
If I'm
there
not
was
getting
a
it,
little
nobody's getting it.
exactly. So maybe that was a little kind to myself, not a truthful kind way, but that definitely wasn't based off of reality at all. But once I've observed that, I started to challenge that mindset and say, like, okay, I keep thinking this thing. I've observed that. Is that true? And that's what has taken me down this rabbit hole of learned opportunity, is trying to find out, is that true? Is there as much opportunity as there used to be, or could I actually do something about it? And that has been extremely helpful. And that I changed that mindset from this is an outside thing, that there's nothing that I can do for myself at all in this, to I'm noticing these trends and I'm noticing I'm thinking this way. Let me look into this more. Let me think about it and see if there is something that I can do. And it so happens that I now believe that, yes, there's plenty of opportunity out there, but maybe more opportunity than there has ever been in history for us to match our options and our values. We just have way more options than anybody ever has, which might actually limit your opportunities in another way too. But that's kind of the journey of my own mindset, of my own limiting beliefs from the beginning of this process to now, where there has been fruit. There has been things that have happened because instead of passing judgment and just accepting this limiting belief, I'm just going to try the next thing. I'm going to reframe that and be curious instead of passing judgment. And so we all do this, and we do this in multiple areas of our life. It's not just job related. It's relationships. It's anything. Really, it's just being human. But we do have the power to, if we're reflecting, if we're observing ourselves, to ask ourselves these questions and then to reframe it and turn it into something that is way better for us than just accepting these thoughts that randomly come off of emotional reaction into our head.
Yeah, the wisdom lives between our reaction and our action, that there's a space there, and that's where you're able to flex your creative muscles and able to actually choose what you're doing to respond.
Viktor Frankl.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Viktor Frankl, but I didn't want to credit him, so I appreciate that you do know that.
Yeah, that's Viktor Frankl. And a lot of the things about limiting beliefs, a book that's been helpful for me on that is John Acuff's Soundtracks. He goes over that process of, I just want to say, like, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? That's John's words. That's not Daniel. So.
Very cool. Very cool. We can put a link to that book in the show notes too, for anybody that wants to go find it on Audible or buy it or whatever. Yeah. Very cool. So as we I mean, I guess you kind of spoke to this a little bit, but as like limiting beliefs came from somewhere. A lot of them, like we developed for whatever reasons. Some of them showed up as safety mechanisms, right? And we've kind of morphed those into our lives, and now they're no longer safety mechanisms. Now they're just limiting. And so how do we kind of acknowledge that, okay, I've got this limiting belief that there's not as much opportunity as there used to be, and this came from a place of self-preservation, a place of self-protection. That's not a bad place for something to come from. I get why that came from that, but it's no longer serving me. How do we kind of go about putting those beliefs down rather than just carrying it through forever?
Yeah, I think that the first step is, how do we figure out that we're having these limiting beliefs? Because we can get so stuck in that too. And so before we can really go about challenging these things, we need to figure out how it is that we have to figure out, like, what they actually are, that they're actually there, that they're present. Because if it's present and on your mind, you can actually do something about it. So I would say that a couple of the ways that I have figured out my limiting beliefs have been, one, based off of necessity. Like you said, you do things because they've worked in the past, and then you hit a point in your life where it's not working anymore. And you just realize that, and you are forced to make a change. And so you're going to have to battle your limiting beliefs and your mindsets in that moment. And so, like, that's just a part of transition that's going to happen naturally in life. And so those are maybe the easier limiting beliefs to find and to uncover, because it's just going to happen to you. I graduated from college, and my life's different. I needed to change. I could not be cute college Daniel anymore, who was an RA and all these other leadership activities and things like that. I couldn't do that anymore. That was not going to work. No one cared. So I had to make a change. But the other way that you might be able to discover your limiting beliefs that you're having is you just have to have community around you. You have to have people that know you, that care for you, and that will call you out on your crap, that will be like, that's not true. Like, what in the world? I just heard you say that, and like, that's not true. Or like, get over yourself, Daniel. Like that's you're not entitled to opportunities for leadership just because some people said that you were a leader in youth group. Like, get over yourself. That would be my wife. That would probably tell me that. That's a real benefit of being married, is that person will tell you how it is a lot of the time. So a recommendation for your own character formation is get married. Okay.
Get married to someone that's able to do those things, right? Identify those, and
I mean,
not
you
just
will,
anybody.
there will be some formation. It just might not be the person that you want to be if you just get married to a random person. So that's a great point, Joel.
You'll form.
But then, like, too, it's just people that care for you are not going to let you not be kind to yourself. They're going to hear those things, and they're going to be kind back, and they're going to speak truth in your life. And like I said, you're being formed by those things around you, by the people, by the media that you're intaking. All of these things add up. And so if you want to be someone that is able to find your limiting beliefs a little bit easier, you have to be intentional about the people that you're around. You have to be intentional about the activities that you're doing, and it'll be more likely to unearth. The third might be practicing mindfulness activities, so meditation, journaling, breathing exercises, going to counseling, things like that. If you just feel off, but you're not able to recognize it, that's another piece of community that might be helpful, is finding somebody that's in an official way going to be able to help you through that process through counseling or other more professional help. So off the top of my head, those would be, I guess, my suggestions for finding out that you have limiting beliefs. And then once you find out that you have limiting beliefs, going through that whole John A. Cuff mechanism of, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this kind? Observing it, and then choosing to change it and challenge that belief and be curious and see whether or not that makes the mark. So
Off the top of my head, and he goes and says some of the most profound, really, really solid advice. That's really good stuff, Daniel.
it's just I don't know. I've read a lot, and there's probably a bunch of other authors and a bunch of other people that I have no ability to cite at all. So I want to be able to cite them as well as I can, but it's not Daniel.
No, I like it. I like it. We are like the summation of the people that we spend time with and the hobbies that we spend our time doing and the content that we consume. And so even though it's, maybe not all things that you've come up with originally, like it's still valuable, like you are a product of the things that you think about and the things that you come from. Thanks for listening. If you have any thoughts or questions, text us at 503-893-2664. Now, back to the show. I want to be respectful of time and, kind of wrap up soonish. Before we do that, I have a couple of maybe briefer things that I wanted to hit. So number one, I know that you've done a lot of reading. I know that you've done a lot of thinking about books and that sort of thing. Do you have some top books that you would recommend, or books that you give as gifts a lot, or books that you come back to and read more than once?
Yeah, I think the one book that I've given as a gift, I maybe haven't given a whole lot, but the one I keep coming back to and that I always recommend for people is John Mark Comer's Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's a book about formation. It's Christian spiritual formation focused, but there's just so much truth in there about being formed in something. And like I've talked about, like you're going to be formed into someone no matter you're being intentional about it or not. And so I think that John Mark Comer's Ruthless Elimination of Hurry helped me to start seeing that, and I would recommend that to other people, and very much so. And I also just like any of his other books too, like Live No Lies and things. Yeah. Some podcasts that I typically listen to. I listen to John Acuff a lot. All It Takes Is a Goal, his podcast. I listen to leadership podcasts like Gary Newhoff's, and I listen to even like just different subject matters like financial podcasts like Ramit Sethi, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Yeah, things like those are just it goes and extends past just like this is financial advice, but his is very much limiting beliefs within like our finances and how that plays in to our actions and what we do with our budgets, our money, our resources, and things like that. So those off the top of my mind are some different podcasts and the people that I like to follow, whatever it is that they do. So John Mark Comer, John Acuff, Bob Goffey sort of people.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, we'll include links to those in the description and make sure that we've got those kind of available for people to kind of pursue more. The other question, Daniel, is where can people find more of you?
Yeah, I kind of have a menu on Linktree, and so you can find me on Instagram. My Linktree would be there. My Instagram's at DJECCLES, DJ Eccles. J is my middle initial. I'm not a DJ in any way. Don't book me for your wedding or bar mitzvah. So that's my Instagram. My website's DanielEccles.com. All of that would be available at DanielEccles.com. And I have an email list from DanielEccles.com, and you'll get updates on different blogs, my podcast releases, even sometimes personal information of what I'm up to or the things that I just get excited about. It might be a random thing, but it will be personal or professional development related, most likely. So
I like it. And we'll make sure to get those linked in the description as well, so that people don't have to farm through and find those online. They'll be quick and easy links to click.
In the survey.
Yeah,
as links should be. Yes,
links should be, exactly.
They will be doing their link jobs.
They will. And if they're not, you better let us know.
One thing that I did also want to say is if somebody is just in a certain life transition or a point where they're questioning their options or questioning what it is that they actually care about, it can be job related or it can be do I want to move somewhere or other things like that. I just have a course or some coaching that I do called Life Mapping You, and that's available on my site, and it goes through your options, your values, and you kind of get a placemat of these are the things that I care about and these are the skills and things that I have, all in one place. And so that's a lot of fun. I really like meeting with people and doing that career coaching with them through that process. So
Yeah, that's very cool. I'm sure that would be a great use of time and resources to go through that. Yeah. Man, maybe I should do that. Man, I gotta think about that. Very cool. Well, Daniel, thank you very much for coming on.
With you too.
Yeah, I would too. That would be fun. Daniel, thank you. I was just gonna go into a closing, so you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I very much appreciate you coming on. Very much appreciate you taking the time. Always enjoy Learned Opportunity. I know I'm on your email list. I listen to the podcast. It's always worth my time, and so that's something that I know that we've mentioned before, but I truly would wholeheartedly recommend subscribing, listening in, following up on that, because they are so worth it every time, and just really enjoyable. Daniel, you've got a lot of good things to say, and are someone that's worthy of energy, so I appreciate it.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Daniel, I really appreciate you coming on, and have learned a bunch from you. So it's really good to meet you this way, and we'll definitely be signing up for your email list pretty soon here. So
Thanks, Jesse. Well, guys, I appreciate that you're creating something here and that you are just putting yourselves out there. I mean, that takes a lot of vulnerability. That takes a lot of energy, effort, but it's a great thing to do. And I always want to support people who are putting things out there and are creating instead of consuming. So let me know if there's anything else I can do. And yeah, once again, thanks, guys.